everyone. Welcome to episode 12 of Off the Fields. This episode is called The Courageous Climbers. We're talking about Shelomi Sanders. We're talking about the rise of women's football. And we're talking about what if Michigan actually cheated against Ohio State. So let's get Paris in here. He's actually going to be coming up here shortly. And we have some breaking news, obviously, with Michigan, everything that's going on with Jim Harbaugh. And him being suspended the last 3 games of the season. Is that really enough, though? You know what I'm saying? So, yeah, let's get Paris in here. Right now, the thing is this. I mean, the fact that Colorado beat the #1 team in the country. We're talking about LSU, right? The defending champs. With Angel Reese. You know what I'm saying? They defeated... Oh, there goes Paris. Let's get Paris in here. There is Paris. Okay. So, I mean, let's jump right in. First off, congratulations to the Buffs. We're not talking about Deion and the football team. We're talking about the women's basketball team. I mean, I don't think anybody saw this coming. You know what I'm saying? The look on Angel Reese's face is what was jaw dropping, you know? I was expecting to see, well, not necessarily expecting, I would have hoped to see Shelomi play in the game, but she didn't actually play in this game. It was her teammates that brought home this huge win against LSU. So the Buffs defeated the #1 team. This happened on Monday night in Vegas, and they won 92-78. Now, it's like really historical because the thing is this, they haven't lost a game opener like this since like the 90s, 95, 96 season. And so this was huge. Even though Shelomi Sanders didn't actually play on the court, she caught her dad full of excitement because they actually beat Angel Reese, right? Angel Reese isn't the whole team. You have Flaw J too. You know, she's doing the thing. But the fact that they actually beat the #1 defending champs, I mean, it's insane. And so Deion Sanders did share a few words in his press conference on Tuesday. And of course, he's super proud. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this really just goes to show the potential of the program at the school at Colorado. So like, we're now talking about women's basketball. It's not just about football anymore. Okay. Women's basketball, the viewership has gone up, you know, and so with all of this positive change that's going on in the women's basketball world, it's really exciting to hear what Deion Sanders had to say. So, I mean, he said they're coming. We should have played their music. He said that they're balling. And he said that he loves the coach. Coach Payne is her name. So they love this. He loves this coach. And he just says that it's unbelievable. The fact that he's witnessing this, you know, he's going to their practices and he's witnessing all the changes and the improvements that are being made in the women's basketball team. But I mean, he said that he gets constant feedback from his daughter, and she was so excited. She was literally screaming on the phone, and she was just full of joy. And her dad just kept saying that it's just such a huge compliment. So, I mean, Paris, when you heard that they beat LSU, what was your reaction?
I think the big takeaway here, honestly, is, you know, LSU is the reigning national champs. They were riding high all off season. You know, with their notoriety being the first team from LSU to win the basketball title, so it was huge. You know, again, and then I think more so than anything, you have so many characters on that team. And I say that with respect of with the NCAA being in the age of social media, you know, a lot of the LSU players are riding that high all over social media.
Yeah.
You know, Angel Reese, she is proudly known as a jump talking 3-point shooter, and you know, rightfully so.
Mm-hmm.
What comes with that is the ability to back it up. You know, and I understand that basketball is a team sport, but you know, at the end of the day, if you're gonna talk that talk, babe, you got to play that game and walk that walk. That, you know, at the end of the day, it was just a great reminder that they are the reigning national champs, but that happened back in April. And while they most definitely can still tend for the title this year, they won, meaning past tense. We are in the new year, you know.
Right.
New year, new season, new team, new players. Everyone's hungry. Paige Beckers is back. Last night, Caitlin from Iowa, she recorded another 40-point triple double in the second game of the season. So these girls ain't playing. And I think a lot of people, the whole basketball world, just wonder, where is Angel Reese going to be mentally? Where is Flaw J going to be mentally? They had such a Hollywood off season that some people feel that, are they going to be prepared coming into the season? And, I don't want to say they weren't prepared, but that loss from Colorado did shake the table. And I'm definitely there with my camera to record every little bit of shaking that's going to happen this season because I'm excited. But again, I just think it goes to show the importance of that mentality. Every team coming in, and you really can't take any team for granted, whether they're unranked or top ranked. You got to go in and you got to play.
Right.
And Colorado did that. They played as a team, and you can't take away the big win from them. Right. You can't take it away.
And I mean, that's a great way to start the season too. You know what I'm saying? You're setting the tone for the season. It's great for. It's just a special moment. I think for Shelomi Sanders and her dad Deion Sanders. They're at the same school, and they're both on the Deion Sanders is he's risen that football program from the dead. You know what I'm saying? And I think she has the potential to do the same. When she starts to really start playing and showing her skill set. I mean, she played for Jackson State. We saw that she definitely has the potential, and I think that she's been putting in a lot of hard work, and we're definitely going to see her shine on the team. And so their next game is, it was their next game is Wednesday. So I'm excited to actually be following the Colorado Buffs women's basketball team because that's not something that people normally do. But I bet they will now that, Shelomi Sanders is on the team, and they just beat LSU, the reigning champions. So kudos to them. Congratulations to them. And I wish them nothing but the best of success. Now, the other thing that is on the rise when it comes to women's sports is women's flag football. So I just want to tell you right now, women's flag football is an international sport. It's in Canada, it's in Iceland, it's in Switzerland, it's in Germany, it's everywhere. Okay, but the actual International Women's Flag Football Association was founded in 1997 here in the States. And so the fact that it's been around for so long, I mean, it actually started in the 40s and the 50s, but in the U.S., it was really brought to the limelight in the 70s. And so it first started in Philly, and there's a long history of women's flag football. A lot of women who play tackle football, they go ahead and tap into women's flag football just because the visibility and the support definitely wasn't always there for women's tackle football. It's such a male-dominated sport, and so flag football is more fitting according to society, but either way, it's on the rise right now. And so just to give you a little history, Diane Burleson was the first person to go ahead and she founded the International Flag Football Women's Association. So, I mean, obviously, I'm sure she's so proud to see the success and the progress that's happening in the landscape. But when it comes to it being an Olympic sport, that just happened this year. So it just goes to show you how long it took for these types of equal opportunities to take place and to actually recognize it as a competitive sport. That makes the goal higher for the current student athletes. So flag football, I mean, these girls, young girls, that's when they start, I would say, at the age of 8 and older. They may be even younger than that in some states, but, back in the 40s and 50s, they actually had to fight for space on the field. And now that's no problem. And the thing is this, another reason why it's really expanding right now is because it's a low cost sport. You don't have to buy a bunch of equipment. You're pulling off flags in a sense and maybe just wearing some football cleats. But it's not an expensive sport when it comes to like the equipment with regular women's tackle football. So a lot of high schools are now developing, not just now, but they have developed, girls flag football teams in high school. There was actually a grant for certain high schools across the country to basically, apply for, get the grant to start a girls flag football team. So if your school doesn't have a girls flag football team, then in a way it's lacking and it's behind. There needs to be more funding in your school or in your area, or there needs to be more resources available. And that's something that you could bring to the athletic director's attention if you really want to be a part of that, because I think this movement is on the rise to a different level. I've been talking about Santia Deck a lot. She's one of the leading football players in flag football, and she's one of the first women to create a football cleat, not just for women who play flag football, but just football in general. You know what I'm saying? So I think flag football is going to open up a lot of doors for other women. But what do you think about flag football, Paris? I mean, do you think it's going to get a lot more viewership next year?
I mean, definitely, especially with the exposure with it being an Olympic sport soon.
Mm-hmm.
I definitely grow in ways that other sports hasn't grown.
Mm-hmm.
Again, I just find it fascinating. I think I'm curious to know the contrast between how well flag football does in contrast to the NFL, the CFL, and the XFL. Tackle football.
Mm-hmm.
I only say that because now I kind of wonder, well, will some athletes, go to flag football and retire from the NFL, the XFL, or the CFL? There possibly can even be a little bit more of a longevity in flag football because it is a contact-less sport. Even in terms of, CTE, that's been a big concussions. That has been a big problem within the NFL.
Yeah.
And contact football. And many people to this day don't really know how to fix it, but is flag football the answer? Just, last week, Pat Mahomes of the Kansas City Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
Right? The quarterback.
What? Say it again?
The Chiefs quarterback, Pat Mahomes.
Yeah.
Okay, girl, I was drawing a blank. It's crazy because
I said the same exact thing. I was like,
all I can think about right now is our next topic that we're gonna get into. So it's like racing through my head right now, and so it's so hard to focus. But no, Pat Mahomes just last week he was saying how he would potentially play flag football, and he would try to make a run to be on the Olympic team.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what the process would look like. I also don't think it would be fair if people just give spots like that to NFL players over flag football players who've been playing the sport for years. I do think there's fair and equal opportunity for everyone. But I'm just curious to see how it's gonna blossom. I really am.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think people know that, the state of Florida was the first state to actually have, to sanction the girls flag football team as a varsity sport back in 2002. That's why it's such a big thing down here. There's a huge market down here. You know what I'm saying? But just know that there's just that same market on the other side in different parts of the world. So now that everybody is unified, it's an Olympic sport, the goals and the game itself is going to get a lot more competitive and a lot more tougher. I think that women are prepared for that, though. So with that being said, this is, a organization that opens up it's a gateway, okay, because it's tapping into a male-dominated sport. You already have women in sports who are like in the media side, like myself, where, not too many years ago, reporters were getting called out as being women who don't know how to talk about play-by-plays. So it's just another gateway into the sport of football for women. And this is really going to show that women know what they're talking about when it comes to the sport of football, on and off the field, okay? And in tackle football. Don't get it twisted. I think that a lot of guys underestimate that power that women have in the sport of football, but you're really about to see it, you know. So I'm super excited for this. So,
I also wonder, is it going to start being implemented on college campuses? Is it going to become an NCAA sport soon? Will kids be able to get scholarships to D1 school to play flag football? That can possibly be a gateway. And again, it will be so interesting to see how it's coached and how it operates. But the Big 12 just implemented beach volleyball and another sport in the Big 12, women's field hockey.
Mm-hmm.
Oh no, women's lacrosse. The Big 12 just added women's lacrosse and beach volleyball to the program. So is flag football going to be a sport where a lot of schools across the country are going to start bringing on their campuses?
Yeah, and you have a lot of former NFL players who want to work with these girl flag football teams. You know what I'm saying? It's still a channel for people to be, influential in the game of football, especially for it's like you're hitting two birds with one stone. Women in sports and then football. You know what I'm saying? It's a win-win. So, I mean, the thing is this: the money is now there. It's there. They've reached the levels that they need to. So now we just have to watch it unfold. The season starts like in April. So we'll be seeing more of this next year, and I'm looking forward to it. So yeah, the big news that we got today, Paris. What was your reaction about that team up north?
Okay.
We have to reference them as that team up north.
So there's a lot of information, so please bear with me because I'm going to try to go through. I'm going to try to be very efficient, but the Big Ten has officially posed a ban on the head coach of Michigan, Jim Harbaugh, for violating the Big Ten Conference's sportsmanship policy. Today, on Friday, the Big Ten imposed a ban for Michigan's involvement in an impermissible in-person scouting operation over multiple years, resulting in an unfair competitive advantage that compromise the integrity of competition. Coach Harbaugh will serve a 3-game ban for the rest of the regular season, so he won't be in attendance for tomorrow's game at Penn State, Maryland's game the following week, and the big rival game against Ohio State at home in Michigan. This will also mean that he will not have coached 6 games of the 12 games this season because earlier this season he also served a self-imposed 3-game ban from Michigan over older violations surrounding recruiting. So it's a lot. It's a lot because this is the Big Ten's punishment, not the NCAA's punishment, which is still set to come. So when I think of it that way, I do think this is pretty much a fair punishment, because the NCAA still has their own final punishment, which is going to be a lot harsher.
You think it will
than
be?
I think that they will definitely. Well, it's interesting. So just about maybe 45 minutes ago, someone just released the NCAA's latest statement. And based on their findings, people do believe that there will actually be a very, very big punishment coming, because it appears that the NCAA actually does have evidence that Michigan cheated in some way, shape, or form. And they actually wrote this in a statement sent to Big Ten and Michigan. So it does actually appear that the NCAA are pretty much solid on the conclusion that, Michigan were playing unfairly. And they said that the NCAA knew and can prove the following. The staff member participated in and coordinated a vast off-campus in-person advanced scouting scheme.
Mm-hmm.
He purchased and forwarded tickets for games involving future university football opponents, and tickets were for the seats strategically located for stealing future opponents' signs. He and others acting in this direction video recorded signs used by future university opponents while attending the opponents' games in person. This is just some of the followings that they said that they have solid evidence for. Um, there's also evidence from members within the Michigan program who have admitted to and also gave in evidence to the NCAA. So at this point, Michigan's back is against the wall, and
Yeah.
that there is really anything they can do at this time.
Jim better start talking. I said this last episode. The evidence is stacked so high. We're going to hear more, okay? And we're going to learn that they cheated against Ohio State. I stand pretty strong on that.
I mean, other schools too.
Yeah. So, I mean, there's no way. If he did not beat Ohio State when he did, he would not be at Michigan any longer, okay? It was already borderline, like he was out of there. He was going to get fired if he didn't beat Ohio State. So he took desperate measures. He's been with Michigan and he's been dedicated to Michigan for years. Now, he's produced some NFL players. You know, I'm not going to knock him. He is a good coach. But now, I don't know. You know, the credibility is a little bit, it's not the same, you know, because honestly, they're deemed as cheaters. Like you were telling me, how could we not think that they haven't cheated this season? How could we not? And the rest of the season.
You know, it's so interesting because, you know, you have so many people saying that, and a lot of these people that are saying this are Michigan supporters, which, you know, by all means, if that's your team, you know, I understand you're gonna, I guess, you know, support them through the good and the bad. But I think what kind of baffles me is just the hypocrisy that I kind of see from those Michigan fans.
Yeah.
That when it didn't trust them when it came to the Nebraska incident, you know, everyone was all for a quick punishment. But when it comes to Michigan, you know, it's all of a sudden everyone wants to due process.
Mm-hmm.
You know, if you're gonna do for one, you got to do for all others. You know, you can't, especially, you know, in a big organization like this, like the Big Ten. You know, you have to make sure that you're moving forward very strategically, especially with Washington, Oregon, UCLA, and USC joining the conference next year. It's going to be very important that these laws and protocols are very strongly put in place.
Yeah, the thing is this. You know, as I've been saying, Jim Harbaugh, he's been trying to ignore this. He doesn't really want to say anything. I think it's really embarrassing for him. At the same time, I think being suspended for the rest of the season, that's 3 games. I think that's a slap on the wrist. I think that the decision coming out when he's en route, if not already, you know, en route for prepping for their Penn State game, I think that's interesting. You know what I'm saying? It makes me question some things. Why did you guys release this right before the game? You know, I think that the fact that Michigan is going to respond with a lawsuit, I want to see. Let's see, because how are you going to back up all that evidence? What are you going to say? What's going to be your defense? You know what I'm saying? So I think that him not being present on the field at all these next 3 games, we're going to see a difference on the field when it comes to the performance for the team. They're undefeated, but that may change these next 3 games. And it definitely is going to have an impact when they play Ohio State. Now, there was speculation that Ryan Day and Greg Schiano, they, were trying to dig skeletons out of Michigan's closet, and they, help corroborate all this. No, that's not the case. Ryan Day is not a coach. He's not a dirty coach like that. I'm sorry, he's not. I don't see him doing anything like that. So, that's out of the question. Don't try to bring Ohio State into this and say that, we had any type of dealings with all of this information being revealed? No, we don't have any
And
hidden cameras or anything.
And the head coach of Rutgers actually said the same thing. He was very pissed off that he was brought into this. And for those that don't know, it was reported that Rutgers, Ohio State, and I believe Michigan State gave signs to Purdue ahead of their showdown against Michigan.
Yeah.
To be clear, sign sharing information is not illegal. Mm-hmm. However, scouting a person is illegal.
Okay.
That is what Michigan is currently being tried for. And going back to my point about a lot of the Michigan supporters not being fair with their judgment. Here we have Desmond Howard, a Heisman winner, former Michigan alum. He is a current analyst for ESPN.
Yeah.
And broadcaster. His points during the Jim Tressel.
He pointed out Jim Tressel.
He did, and he said this was his words, and I quote word for word. "I'm always happy, like anyone should be, to see anybody who cheats the system get caught and get out of the game." This is what you said in 2011 about Jim Tressel.
Mm-hmm.
But here in 2023, you are saying that Michigan should not be punished and they should wait for the investigation to be complete.
Wait for what? We've seen the signs. There's evidence.
And to be clear, the Ohio State scandal was about players getting free tattoos.
So which one is more detrimental to the game of football?
Exactly. And it's going to be very interesting to know what the NCAA is going to rule in terms of Michigan's punishment. As I've said before, I do believe that they are going to revoke a lot of Michigan wins. And it's quite ironic because Michigan currently is en route to being the first college football program to achieve 1,000 wins. And they are also going to be the only program in history to achieve that number twice. Because after this season ends, whether they reach 1,000 wins or not, they are going to get some wins revoked. About 2 years worth of wins revoked. And they would have to, ironically, reach that 1,000 number again. Because after this investigation is complete, I'm quite positive that some of those wins, including their back-to-back Ohio State wins, are going to be vacant.
Yeah, I think that, one of those games involved Justin Fields, right? And that was a major upset for him. He didn't win. He could have gotten at least 50 yards in that game, but he didn't. I think that they definitely cheated that game. We felt that, not just because we lost the game, but it was just so weird, the turnaround. And it's like the coaching style wasn't there for like the previous 3 years. So where is this coming from? Now we know where it was coming from. I think for Desmond Howard to say what he did, I know that he's a diehard Michigan guy. You know what I'm saying? Alma mater and all of that. But come on, man, you have to know that their hands are dirty. And it's unfortunate that it's your school that you live, eat, and breathe for. But yeah, their hands are dirty, and they deserve to be punished a lot harder because of the way that they did it. You know what I'm saying? The way that it was out in the open, the way that you had somebody actually out there in a disguise, buying 30 tickets to games and things. I mean, just doing the most. I'm saying taking desperate measures. And I think that is just something that you just can't overlook. You have to, take that into account when it comes to the punishment. And it needs to be harsh because they beat Ohio State twice. That's the rivalry game. And it's not just about Ohio State. The fact that they're even undefeated this season is still like, what? Wow. It wasn't like that. Now, I'm not saying that you can't turn around. I'm not saying that. You can. But we know that they cheated. Now, and at some point, we should know how many games they cheated in.
And turning a program around with the same coaches that could have won if you gave them the plays themselves. It's like, let's be honest. Again, I use the reference. Ryan Day got rid of his defensive coordinator and hired Jim Knowles. And once Jim Knowles was hired, that's when you saw a significant change in Ohio State's defense.
Yeah.
I believe it was Albert Einstein who once said, doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results, is insanity. Yeah. And, that applies to this Michigan situation. Because, again, with the same coaching staff, coaching the same way, not implementing new things and expecting a huge turnaround, it's just, I don't want to say it's impossible, but it's not reality. It's not Michigan's reality.
Mm-hmm.
I could have understood if they hired a slew of new coaches, but they didn't. With the same coaching staff, you're going to tell me that Michigan just woke up one day and just decided to become arguably one of the best programs in the country like this? Absolutely not.
Yeah, no.
Absolutely.
And I think that a lot of Michigan people it's hard for them to accept. They don't think that he should be, punished really hard. They don't think it should be a great punishment. Even former Michigan football players, they don't even want to talk about this stuff right now. You know what I'm saying? And I think that's because they know.
I think what frustrates me is just the integrity side, that even as you as a former player yourself, the fact that if you know, and I don't want to blame anyone, but if you know that there were things that were not right that happened,
mm-hmm.
but you're still standing for them, that is what bothers me. Because as a former athlete myself, there were a number of things that was not done right before me,
Mm-hmm.
and against me. And, to know that people are so stern, in their immorality,
Mm-hmm.
honestly, it hurts. And more than anything, I mean, that's a serious issue. It's a serious issue. It is. And, whether people believe that Jim should be punished harshly or not, at the end of the day, he is the head coach. And I've been saying this for weeks now. It is the head coach's responsibility to know absolutely everything that goes within his program. And he is responsible for everything known and unknown that happens.
Yeah.
So whether he knew about the science or not, he's the head coach. He's going to be held responsible, and he should be. You should be.
And there may be evidence that he knew.
And we all know that Connor Stallions did what he did. There's no denying that. We know that the man resigned. He made it, first he was suspended, and then, he was resigned because he knew what he did.
Mm-hmm.
And Jim, whether you didn't know or not, at the end of the day, you are the head coach, and you're going to have to bear some sort of, some type of responsibility. You're going to have to.
Yeah.
Absolutely. There's no way that you can work, or walk your way around this. And it's unfortunate that people fail to realize that.
Yeah.
Even if the game suspension was the only punishment, he's set to face.
Right.
Into the NCAA laws, head coaches are that happens on their program.
Mm-hmm.
They are and a policy of compliance with everyone, students, staff, and volunteers. So, at the end of the day, I really don't have any remorse for the punishment. And it's honestly, it's hard for me to say I had remorse for some of the team members, because I don't know if they knew or not. And they can say they didn't know, but only themselves and God know if they truly did know what was going on within that program.
So a lot of people, like Stephen A. Smith, for example, right? He said that he feels that Michigan should be banned from the CFP, college football playoffs. A lot of people think that was just an absurd comment that he made on the live broadcast. I don't see anything wrong with the comment, because the evidence is there and they need to be held accountable. You know what I'm saying? And the punishment needs to be stern. And that's all he's saying. People were saying that, oh, well, the investigation is not completed, so why would you go ahead and ban them from CFP? Why? Because they're being accused of cheating right now. Like, this is not something that happened 10 years ago. This is something that it's recent and it's current and it's happening. Yeah, Connor Stallions, the head honcho of this whole operation. I mean, yeah, he's gone from the program, but that doesn't mean that there isn't a lingering effect. And Harbaugh has to start talking. You can't not keep pretending as if he doesn't know what was going on. There's no way you don't have a clue. So I just
With a $55,000 salary, do you mean to tell me that man bought tickets to 12 of the 13 Big Ten school teams to SEC championships?
Right. They wrote it off as something else.
Do you really
So
think? Do you really think that he spent his money with making $55,000 for 2 years buying to make traveling? Like, when you really put two and two together,
right.
let's be honest.
Make it make sense.
Let's make the math. I'm not a mathematician, but baby, that math ain't mathing.
It's not. And Michigan feels like they're against the world. Michigan versus everybody. For what? You got caught cheating.
And it's like with every day that passes, it makes it harder and harder to have any remorse. Mm-hmm. It really does. Just today, Michigan players, I don't know if you've seen it or not, but
they had on the shirts.
Yes,
I saw that.
Yeah. Michigan versus everybody. Get up. Get up.
Like, I mean, come on. You
know
what?
Can't even get original slogans. Can't even use original slogans. You know
what is authentic?
So
yeah, I mean, it's different when it's like Ohio against the world. You know, I think that's totally different. But I think that this is it could be mentally motivating for the players, you know, to prove everybody wrong. We could see that type of shift in the performance when they play Penn State. However, I think a lot of people are going to tune into that game to see how this is affecting the players' performance on the field without having their coach with them. That's a big thing. This is the end of the season, and they've gotten this far. It's been many years since they've gone undefeated, first of all. So the fact that they won't have their coach the next 3 games is crucial, okay? They've already lost Connor Stallions, for goodness sakes. You know, I don't know.
You're funny.
How instrumental he is in these games, you know?
Well, you know, it's interesting because, you know, some people, and I'll actually pull it up, because some people actually weren't pleased with his suspension because they felt that it actually wasn't harsh enough. You know, again, yeah. I won't say that. I won't say that that it wasn't harsh enough. I won't say that it should have been you know, easier or lighter. But what I will say is that some people were not happy with his punishment.
Yeah. And I think that
I pull up something that some fans said, because it actually ties with what you said. I'm not sure if you know, him not being at the game plays any sort of effect, but a lot of fans actually feel indifferent. They feel that you know, he won't have that much big of an effect on his team. You know, his team has already proved that they can win without him. You know, additionally, it's not the head coach. It's not him that calls out the plays, but it's the defensive coordinator and the offensive coordinator. So some people feel that, you know, him not being there won't even make, you know, that much of a big difference.
Yeah. Well, you know, sometimes right now, I know that they're not talking as much. Like Jim Harbaugh thinking about whatever's in his best interest, what he feels, and they're also being, you know, told not to with attorneys and lawyers of that nature. But I think that the students are more affected by this than what we think and what we know. I think that that's going to come out maybe in the next 3 games when they have a challenge, you know, when they lose a game possibly. I think we'll hear more from the football players then to see how heavy this was on them. and to, understand the impact, just like to be accused of cheating. This is not just cheating with like a play on the field. This is something bigger. This is serious, and this violates laws, rules, and regulations and policies that are in place. So I think that you know this is going to also be motivation and momentum, though. You know what I'm saying? I think the timing that they released this decision is going to influence the viewership for this game. Okay, they don't necessarily want to, be known in a negative light, but at the same time, they are the most talked about football team right now when it comes to this scandal, this investigation. And as I've been saying, they're in such hot water. So it's really, I think that I want to watch the game because I want to see if there's going to be any shift with the fact that Harbaugh is not on the field. We'll see. Maybe they prepared for this. Maybe Harbaugh already knew this was going to happen, possibly. You know what I'm saying? It's not like he hasn't faced, such demises before. For goodness sakes, before he won, he was about to lose his job. I can only imagine what that was like. But to lose it this way, it's a little different. It would hit him a little different because you're going out with being accused of cheating. Low key, I heard that like he would take a coaching job with the Bears. Maybe the NFL would want him, but I don't know. NFL and college football is different, but I think that the integrity and all of that is what's going to come into question. I just wish Harbaugh would say more. I think that this is going to build up so much anticipation for the game versus Ohio State. It's already doing it for the game versus Penn State, but the Ohio State game is just going to be totally different because we're also going to be waiting to see if there's evidence that they cheated against Ohio State. I think that there is. I think that they know that if they reveal this now, it's going to, I don't know, it would be like a whirlwind. And I think that a lot of Buckeyes are happy right now. And unfortunately, I think that they're happy in the sense that, they knew that something was off with the program when they won that year. And it's just something we have to wait and see.
I think a lot of players are frustrated, not even just Buckeyes, but just, a lot of other Big Ten schools. Again, Michigan went from losing to a lot of these programs to absolutely blowing them out,
Mm-hmm.
within a couple months. And no coaching or, major changes. So I think a lot of people are frustrated. And to be clear, the Big Ten never said that they had evidence that Jim knew for his suspension.
They what?
So the Big Ten didn't. The Big Ten revealed that they didn't suspend Jim because they knew or they had evidence that Jim knew about the science thing.
Mm-hmm.
Suspended him, but they suspended him because they said that he allowed the team to continue playing with someone who embodies, with someone who doesn't embody integrity within the football program, the staff. So again, the reason why the Big Ten did decide to suspend Harbaugh is, as I said before, the head coach is responsible for everything that happens, within his program, and he is the one who is supposed to enforce compliance, with his staff members and his team. And the fact that he allowed his team to compete, to still compete 2.5 years with someone like Connor Stallions on, his payroll, that's why he's being punished. And again, it's quite hard to believe that you didn't know. But at the very least, if you didn't know, for a fact, your coordinators had to have known. Your defensive coordinator had to have known. Your offensive coordinator had to have known about Stallions' science schemes.
Mm-hmm.
Let's be how else are they going to call plays? How is the
Right.
defense coordinator going to call players if he didn't know about the other team's signs?
Right.
He had to have found out. If Connor was the one who stole the signs the way he did, how would the defensive coordinator have known about the stolen signs to call the
Right.
play? He had to have talked with Stallions.
Yeah.
There's, you know what I'm saying? It's the same with the offensive coordinator.
Yeah. He, of course, these things get ran by Harbaugh. I mean, you cannot, say that you had no idea. It just doesn't make sense. It's not a good look as a head coach as well, because it kind of comes off as, um, irresponsible in a way. And yeah, the integrity it has a dent in it. This is supposed to be one of the best programs in the country. I beg to differ. But let me pull up what Stephen A. Smith said, quote from quote, because
Please,
he said
please.
this when he was at Michigan. He said this before. He said this when he was at Michigan. And then he decided to say it on a live broadcast. So let me just pull this up here. And I mean, when I saw it, I have to say that, I agree. So let's see what Stephen A. said. Go back here. I think he makes a really good point. So this is what he said. He said, the fact that the investigation is still open is nonsensical to me. He said that it makes no sense. Expedite the process, reach a conclusion, tell me they didn't do it, I'm fine with it. Tell me there is not enough evidence to validate they did it, I'm fine. But as long as the investigation is open, there's no way on earth that you can have the Michigan Wolverines going to the college football playoff when it is possible that they may have had somebody working for them, traveling around to other schools, stealing signs, giving them an unfair advantage. And so I think he makes a valid point. Some people think that banning them from the college football playoffs is too harsh. And that includes some of the Michigan fans. They think that's too harsh. But then I see that some fans agree. Because, I'm telling you, it's the way and the style and in the manner that it was done as far as the cheating goes. Harbaugh was at the end of his football career as a coach, his coaching career. And if he lost another game, as he was losing back to back the previous year, but when they finally beat Ohio State, that was his redemption moment. But it just wasn't believable. It was very surreal to us. We couldn't believe it. But I think that we're going to see that evidence come out. And I kind of agree with Stephen A. Smith that they should be banned. Is that going to happen? I doubt it. I don't think that would actually happen. I wish that, the punishment, I wish that the punishment was just harsher. I think that, like you said, the harsher punishment is going to come later. So we'll see. But if they were to have been banned, how do you think that would have been taken? Do you think, I don't think that would have been taken lightly either, though.
No, I don't. And it's also not the college football playoff committee's responsibility to ban them. So again, they don't really have a ruling. All they can do is literally rank Michigan on how they've been playing this season compared to other schools. So a ban would have to come by way of the NCAA, or hypothetically speaking, the Big Ten, which I don't think is done because that's pretty hefty suspension. And again, the Big Ten doesn't have the evidence that the NCAA has.
Mm-hmm.
So So a ban from the Big Ten would be a little too much, but from the NCAA, I wouldn't think so. I think, again, what kind of worries me is if they make it to the playoffs and then we find out in the months coming that Michigan actually cheated, you can't take their playoff spot back and give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
If they win the playoff and make it to the national championship game, you can't take that trophy away from them and give it to somebody else.
Right.
If they win the national championship title, you can't take it away and then give it to the other person who played in the national championship game. Heck, they might not have even been in the game if Michigan wasn't even in the playoff.
Yeah, it's like they cheated their. This is what Stephen A. Smith. He always also said this. He said, "You do not get to go to the college football playoff and rob potentially another institution from getting one of those Final Four spots if the possibility is open that you may have cheated to get your way there."
Right.
And that makes so much sense to me.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? I think that the fans will be divided about this investigation.
Absolutely.
And I think that, you know, what really needs to be revealed is if they cheated against Ohio State. That is going to determine how harsh the punishment will be in the end. That's how I'm going to leave it on the table. I think that if it's found that they cheated against Ohio State both of those years, NCAA is going to come down hard. And I believe Ohio State will then have something to say. We'll see how this plays out. But if they actually cheated against Ohio State, what do you think is going to happen?
If they really did against Ohio State in a way that really helped them win, I do believe not only are the wins going to be vacant, but I also believe that they are going to see a huge change within the coaching staff. I do believe that some coaches will be let go. The wins will be vacant. Honestly, it's unimaginable. Honestly, I really can't even fathom to know that possibly C.J. Stroud could have won a Heisman.
Mm-hmm.
That's a defining game for him.
Yeah.
That very last game of the regular season, before the Heisman votes are in. So, just knowing that this, not small, but, this one portion, could have changed the whole trajectory of, what we're seeing today. It's unbelievable. And if Michigan is found guilty of, what they're being accused for, then I believe that, the hand of wrath, if it comes down, it comes down hard. And it should. I think it should because, there's a huge level of integrity that does need to be put back into sports, and especially college football.
Yeah. Well, we're going to see tomorrow Michigan versus Penn State without Jim Harbaugh. We won't see Jim Harbaugh anymore for the rest of this season. So that's going to be interesting. But that is it for tonight's episode. So thank you guys for tuning in. As always, make sure you tune in on Monday because it's going to be very interesting after this weekend. We're going to be talking about college football and all other sports. Other than that, make sure you guys follow us on Instagram, on Facebook, and also subscribe to our YouTube channel on YouTube. That way you'll get the notification for when the new episodes are uploaded to the channel. So you guys have a great weekend and enjoy.
And
bye.
If you didn't know, the Penn State showdown tomorrow against Michigan is at noon, I believe, on Fox.
Yeah.
So make sure you tune in because we definitely will be recapping that game on Monday.
Yeah, so make sure you tune in. We have a lot to say about that game. And no more Jim Harbaugh for the next 3 games, so keep that in mind too. Have a good night. Bye.